G'day folks, welcome to this after-action report for a campaign of Enemy Action Ardennes. This is the John Butterfield design from 2015, published by Compass Games. Later this year, in Q3 2021, we'll be seeing the sequel, Enemy Action Kharkov. And as this gets closer, I thought I'd run through an after-action report for this game. So this is the end of the first turn. It's the end of the 16th of December. We're just at the very start of the 17th. And let me sort of run through what's been happening. We had the 26th Division of the 47th Corps. They started around this area, and they first, we actually had the activation of this group, the 66th Corps, activating around here, I believe it was, and they use the Reinforce Battle. It's this combat event. You can't play command events in the first turn, but you can play combat events. You also can't move on the first turn, but you can reinforce battle. So these units of the 26th Panzer Division shifted north, assisted in that battle. I believe the initial attack was pretty successful and they eliminated the defenders, enabling them to cross one unit across this bridge. On the first impulse, in fact, on the first turn, the whole 16th, only one unit can cross a bridge per turn. So they managed to get one armoured unit across, one mechanised unit across the bridge, securing the bridge, capturing it. It's very important to capture bridges on the first turn because the Allies can't blow bridges on this first turn. These markers don't come with the game. With the game, you get these blown bridge markers. I'm not a fan of these. You have to put them kind of pointing at the hex side. So I've made these out of just tile spaces and I've coloured them blue for German, green for American, red for destroyed to mark the 4 initial destroyed bridges, the initial American bridges, and then the ones that the Germans have captured. Whenever they cross a bridge, they capture it. On subsequent turns, so from the 17th onwards, there's a chance the Americans may blow those bridges. So they've captured this bridge and 2 more over here. They've advanced across, and this was their main path across the river. They then advanced in force. You can see the 47th Corps really pushing out in force. They came very close to, where is it? Sorry. No, actually they've captured Vilsam up here. Came within range of Trois Point, Marnhay, even Stavelot. And then these roadblocks started popping up. One came via movement, the other one came via event, which is why it's kind of sitting just far apart in Trois Points. I often think that you want to delay the arrival of American reinforcements. But in this case, they all arrived early. And it was actually pretty good because most of them arrived in this area. We've managed to split. So the 9th Armoured started off pretty close together. They have to, I think, be within 3 hexes. But then I've driven them apart. They've been lucky. They've been retreating rather than taking any step losses. Keeping in mind, we actually got a improved position on these guys, which was eliminated, and they retreated, which has kind of driven a wedge between the 9th Armoured and the whole 8th Corps. So most of the early cards I drew were from these sort of corps. I didn't draw the first SS until later in the day. They got active, eliminated the opposition. Actually, no, they retreated that hex there. Here they are up here. That should be removed because you remove disruption markers at the end of the turn. Dispersed markers, I'm sorry. And they're starting to drive through. They're just in the outskirts of Bullingen. And if I pan down, you'll be able to see my action cards for the first day. So a lot of choices here, which is good. I've got the whole 5th Panzer Army activation. I can activate, I've got 4 primary cards, 1st Panzer Corps, 66, and so forth. So a lot of choices at the start of this second turn, but certainly this is where the gap is. If you look here, this is the main gap in the American lines. I would love to eliminate this unit. If I can eliminate them, I may be able to surround them with, maybe not. There's a chance I can surround them with zones of control and eliminate them. That'd be a great thing to strive for, because then that creates a gap from basically here to here. This is the only unit in this area. Again, there were other units, so I've eliminated another unit. There was an infantry unit that started up around here, which I've eliminated. These are the, incidentally, the American eliminated units. On this first turn, I've knocked out 4, including the reconnaissance unit at the top there. So it's a decent start. This infantry got off very lucky. They were attacked, I believe, maybe four times throughout the turn, and each time they just couldn't get enough hits to eliminate them. Another time, so this reconnaissance unit, they suffered about 9 hits in combat. So swings and roundabouts. First SS, look, they're set up and ready to drive. It's going to be difficult, kind of, the edge of their line is here, so they have to kind of get through this broken terrain here, which costs 2 movement points, and then another 2 movement points. So this is a bit of a bottleneck for them around here. Once they get through there, they can kind of shift in a few different directions. So folks, that is the situation at the end of the first turn, the 16th of December, 1944. Okay, so this is the situation towards the end of the 17th of December turn. This has been an amazing turn for the Germans. I've never had so much good luck in a game of enemy action Ardennes. It always feels like the luck is against me. This turn, I mean, everything balances out. So I did have some really bad combat around here, trying to attack Rocherath Krinkelt. Horrific results. Suffered, I think, 3 attacker losses, maybe 4, and the 1 attack to no defender losses. You can see these green American troops at full strength, whereas I've been heavily reduced. Suffered some adverse combat results elsewhere. You can see a couple of reduced units around, but the critical combat came through here. A massive attack on Elsenborn succeeded and punched a hole through the American lines. I had to shift attention elsewhere, and I think this is when I activated the 47th Corps in purple. They were just kind of shifting forward gradually, encountering a couple of roadblocks along the way around here and around. There were some roadblocks around here. I then shifted back again. You can't alternate the same corps in consecutive impulses, so I shift back to them and basically alternating between the 2 big corps. First SS then activates, and they go pouring through. The way I did this was via the Model Army Group B card. This lets you activate any German corps. So it was a big activation of that whole first SS Panzer Corps. They drove through the gap here, got to around this area here. Super lucky not to draw any roadblocks along this road. They did draw one in Eupen, so we had to sort of stop there briefly. But nothing along here. Managed to pour through here and cut off these 5th US Corps units here. There was some combat here which forced these defenders back. This combat here succeeded for the Americans. So this is where I say sort of it balances out. They got an improved position. Actually, I think that came from an engineer result. So I'm also getting lucky with the Allied commands. Super lucky. I've drawn engineers for here, engineers down the south. I mean, it's frustrating to have these engineers pop up, but it's far better than having these guys move around and having reserve units pop up around the board. I've been incredibly lucky with reserve units. You'll notice, if you can see just up the top here, some American units have unfortunately popped up in Verviers, but not much else, which has been good. We did have some pop up in Trois-Ponts. This is where a roadblock was. This one may have been via an event. I think that was via an event. I can't recall what it was. So, yeah. Then I shifted, so from first SS, pouring through that gap, shifting back down to the 47th Corps. Mixed results with roadblocks. We were so close to Bastogne and then a roadblock popped up. I sort of pocketed this unit here, managed to kind of shift some forces down, and the infantry just hang around this area. Tried to drive through to La Roche, another roadblock. Got very lucky at Manhai, no roadblock there, but a roadblock on this crossroads area just west of Trois-Ponts. This was happening, and then I shifted back up to the north, to the 1st SS, and I managed to get the 1st SS Panzer Division activation. This is a small divisional activation, activates the 1st SS Panzer Division, so just really looking at those 3 yellow units in the lead. No reserve unit roadblock activation here, so they keep moving. They ran into a roadblock here, which was unfortunate. They could have almost surrendered Verviers. The first unit here got, again, super lucky with roadblocks. No roadblocks in any of these checks, and they moved out to here, holding this position here. Piper was here. They just moved 1 hex forward. At this point, with this Panzer unit here, we had effectively cut the supply. If you follow this line, we had cut supply for all these American units in here and all these American units in here. So within one turn, we have now pocketed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 American, what are we looking here, regiments. The bulk of the American forces on the board. Now, this, again, I've never had this much luck with enemy action Ardennes. I'm waiting for the bad news to come. You know that every time you move, it's a roll of the dice. Roadblocks will pop up. Those roadblocks could convert into reserves. Well, look, as I said, it swings around, and unfortunately, like this was my last activation to secure this move, I think around here. Again, getting pretty lucky, a couple of roadblocks there and there. But of course, on the last activation, the last allied command before the end of the turn, I draw the 18th Airborne Corps, who have some very strong reserves about to be deployed. So this is where I am at the moment. I'm about to deploy these reserves, which will most likely blunt this advance. The luck has to run out sometime. But it's been a nice little run. Having said that, I don't think, I mean, these reserves, I don't think they can relieve the out of supply status of a lot of those American units. I don't think, I mean, out of supply is a slow deterioration for those units. It's still going to be kind of a thorn in my side in all these areas. It's not going to be an instant kind of rapid change of the German situation. They'll still have to deal with those, but well, I guess the other thing is that these 47th Corps units are placed north of this line. So they go up here. That still leaves kind of some wiggle room around here. I mean, this is where my drive is. I'm trying to get basically 47th Corps as close to their boundary line as possible. These guys are right on the edge. They can't cross these bridges. They're not allowed into Stavelot. There it is there, sorry. These guys can't press any further north than this line. So they're looking to swing around here. And I mean, they're linking up so well with the 1st SS. This cuts supply, communication. These guys are in supply, but they are at risk of surround. These guys down here are surrounded. Down in the sector, the reason why the camera's up here is everything down here has been super quiet. You'll notice that the 80th Corps down here has not moved. These guys have moved slightly, but not a lot. This has meant, incidentally, I've actually drawn a lot of 8th US Corps allied commands, but they haven't been doing a great deal. Just they're in a town. So they're not doing much. They're holding their position. These guys did have, incidentally, an improved position placed on them via one of these activations, but that was it. So I'm kind of happy that these guys aren't doing much. If they were threatening these positions, maybe they'd be doing much and moving around. There's only 2 victory points to be had down here. Our long way down on the border is worth 5, but it's a lot of activity to do this, and I'd much rather spend the 85th Corps card. I think they have a reinforced battle. So yeah, look folks, that's the end, pretty much the end. Once I place these guys, it'll be the end of the 17th of December. Another great thing I had was, what's the event called? Eisenhower Hesitates, the first event of the day, which pushed back the 82nd Airborne reinforcements. This is coming through from 18th Corps in the north. So we will get 101st reinforcements around this area, but we won't get the 82nd up around Verviers and Liège. All right, so yeah, we'll see how this goes and how long my luck can hold out. Well, I thought my luck would swing poorly, and it did. Just contrast the situation from the previous turn with this, which is at the end of the 18th of December, into the 3rd turn. Look, it was mostly a good turn. Basically, you recall those US reinforcements came out here, which kind of really blocked the 47th Corps advance. they've shifted towards Bastogne. I didn't really want to do this. I don't think, in terms of the broad sort of scheme of this title, this design, I don't think a southern advance is really worthwhile. You've got, you just don't have the victory points. You've got Bastogne for 5, Saint-Hubert for 2, and then Rochefort is hard to get to. It's a lot of resources to get out here across these rivers. You've got Arlon down here, if you can get to it. Ettelbruck, not so hard, but only 2. So, there's a lot of fighting in this area for 10 VP. And that takes up, you've got to dedicate a large part of the 47th Corps to seizing those resources. In contrast, I think the northern advance is much more worthwhile. Trois points here for 5, and then you've got Uffay for 5 here. Verviers alone is worth 5. That's 15, which is pretty much all the southern objectives combined in just sort of 3 key areas. So as I said, I got sucked into Bastogne. There's only a reduced 101st Airborne step remaining. I did this bold move out to Neufchâteau to just off camera to capture it. It's a bit risky, but thus far Allied reinforcements haven't cut me off from supply. In the north was really where I'm happiest. I've kind of detached from these. They were low supply. Now I think the status is out of supply. Detaching and blocking these northern exits, launched a big attack on Verviers, which was hugely successful. I actually only had roughly 4-1 odds in here, but it was a lot of the 1st SS Panzer Division, 1st SS Corps, actually the whole Corps, driving it around here with just flanks being supported. A very weak containment around Elsenborn Ridge, whilst the bulk of that sort of elite armoured combined arms forces drove through here. As soon as I captured it, well, actually, no, I captured towards the end of the turn, shifted some forces around elsewhere, but then drew a horrific event. So the absolute last turn, I had a clear road through to Liège, basically. Again, keeping in mind possibility of checkpoints, but checkpoints aside, clear road through, no US forces throughout much of this area. And then we drew the dreaded expedited reserves, I think it is. And this, you may recall, I mentioned that we had the Eisenhower delays event, or whatever it's called, which pushed the 82nd Airborne Forces back. Because this was happening late in the day, I think they're called late day arrivals. And so they're not just placed in reserves, they're immediately placed on the map. So hello, all these 82nd Airborne Forces. In fact, they shouldn't be there. That was a mistake. But yeah, they all arrive. I brought that unit along with the 82nd. They shouldn't have been there. And it just blocked. There's not 2 rows of American defensive forces here. Elite infantry, relatively low strength, so I'll get good combat odds, but yeah, it's going to be a grind to push through. So yes, trying to push through here. Look, this is a pretty solid US front now along here. I've got sort of zones control. We've got a roadblock here. There's again, they're surrounded out of supply. In fact, they should be marked low supply. It'd be, maybe I should surround here, shift around here towards Saint-Hubert and then drive north from here. There's been a little bit of activity down here, simply because I kind of had to play these core cards, but yeah, nothing too much happening. So there you go. Luck has swung back around against me, and we'll wait and see what happens as we head into the 19th of December. Okay, so here's the situation at the end of the 19th of December, the end of the 4th turn, and some more runs of mixed luck. We finally cleared out the defenders from Bastogne, but haven't had many more activations around here. We've also cleared out some of these Allied defenders around Diekirch. eliminated them, in fact. But again, we haven't had many of the US 12th Corps activations, so they haven't brought any sort of troops to the area. Having said that, I haven't really been pushing. It's been pretty quiet out here. There's certainly opportunities. A couple of units I could quite easily surround from the 8th Corps, but these are slow moving. We do have a tank armoured unit down here, but generally slow moving infantry who have also taken some losses. Pretty quiet in the centre, very little movement at all. We did see an American counterattack, so they're starting to get more aggressive, moving in, cutting off my supplies, and also launching some attack. We're starting to see some eliminated units. Not many, a couple of step losses and counterattacks and the like. I saw the arrival, so I brought on the entire second SS Corps in grey up here, and they've rapidly pushed out, and I actually got lucky with a few of their cards. They got a reinforced battle, helped the first SS to clear. You can see they're on the outskirts of Liège up here. I just couldn't get enough first SS cards, and even if I did, they're not really in a position. What else? Yeah, another sort of, I can't remember what the card was called, but that was the event that killed off my first SS infantry. Pretty weak, but yeah, threatened my position around there. Things are certainly slowing down, and it's become a grind. You can see what I'm doing here. I've got all the SS troops way up in the north, and that's a primary focus of my activities. This is where I've got all the strength. Basically, the 47th Corps is so spread out, they don't have any sort of consolidated strength. But around here, you've got 30 to 40 factors of German strength just in this little area, easily activated by a camp group, which could then move out. They're no longer scattered. What else? Yeah, look. It's going to be tough. This is my objective, really. This is what I'm hoping to do. If I capture that one more hex, I'm adjacent to the Muse. It's not easy because they basically have a defense of 6. They're elite. And it's very likely they'll be reinforced. There's more reinforcements coming on next turn. At best, I can bring some forces in here and get 30 on 6, so 5-1 odds. It really then comes down to luck. It's interesting, a lot of these guys, they're elite, they're armed and combined arms, but they're only 2-step forces. Yeah, so that's the situation, as I said, at the end of the 19th turn. I haven't done the sort of early morning supply check for the 20th, but again, we'll see a deterioration in this allied supply out here. Not much happening out there, very quiet, but yeah, there'll be some supply changes in the coming turns. Incidentally, I'm sitting on, I think, 17 victory points. I've probably missed 1 or 2 here and there, just looking around. I'm also threatening to cut off the supply for these troops. So if I can just move SS in here, these guys just 1 hex over, they cut the supply for these guys, which would be good. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll see what happens soon. Okay, so here we are at the end of the 20th of December. Well, the German offensive is grinding on. There's been a lot of activity down the south here this turn. You can see the 85th Corps has pushed south. We had some of the 80th Corps try to cut these units on the front, and then we saw the arrival of, finally, 12th Corps reinforcements, and they've kind of blocked this advance. I have put some of them on low supply, so they've cut off the supply here, which is nice. I'm in a bit of a difficult position myself, so I can't kind of hang around here, but we'll pull back from there. What is it? The 47th Corps has been very quiet. No movement along here. The Americans had a card which invited them to pull back to avoid being surrounded. So that's why the 101st have just withdrawn a little bit. But elsewhere, I'm kind of weaving my way through the American lines. So the Americans were here and here, and I've been able to cross the bridges here, both intact, and just very slowly. It's hard through here because there's not a solid road network, so it's kind of like 1 or 2 hexes at a time. Haven't had any attacks yet. They're entrenched, improved position. They've got an improved position, but they're now surrounded and out of supply. We do have a roadblock in Saint Hubert, but it'd be nice to clear that out. That's about the only roadblock. There hasn't been much movement, to be honest, to place roadblocks. And even then, I think this one came via an event before I was even in the hex. So I think I was back here, an event called for a roadblock. Further to the north, the critical area here, where my drive on Liège is taking place, I did launch an attack on it, which I failed, basically. We're seeing a lot of, because this is a hold value 6, we're seeing a lot of reinforcements, reserves arriving in this area. Realizing kind of how difficult this is going to be now, the defender is doubled up to 12 defense factors in a city, just horrible to get to. I decided to shift my focus. I pulled some of the 1st SS and the 2nd SS down to these positions. So the Americans had a position here, I believe, and another one here. I attacked both of them with a lot of force. These guys had to retreat back to there, and these guys, wherever they were, they may have even been across. No, I think they were here somewhere. They retreated back to here and were dispersed. But yeah, big attacks, 2 different attacks over different impulses, both successful, marginally so, not really causing much in the way of step losses, but forcing retreats. What I really need is step losses. And it's just hard to get enough hits. What this has done, though, is cut off supply for these guys here. They were not able to get out of there in time, and they've been cut off. So this is good. There are opportunities, certainly, further south here. Like I said, around Saint Hubert, maybe driving through here. These guys are cut off. I can move the infantry along through here, not very far, but they can make some progress towards Marsh. And of course, these guys up in the right are out of supply. And I thought I'd pause here and do these supply rolls so you can see kind of the effects. So I'm going to run through these one at a time. These are green troops, and they're guaranteed, right? Oh no, a 1 to 6. It's a D10. So they survive. The next unit up, I think I roll for this per unit. So the next unit on top is elite. They survive. Then elite. They survive. That's unfortunate. I need a 1 to 2 roll for elite units. We've got some regulars here, and a roll of 5 also sees them survive. Excuse my arm. Elites survive. Elites survive. And finally, right at the top there, those regulars, 10. They survive. So none of these Americans surrender. There's one more down the bottom here. We have these guys who have been sort of cut off for a while. Regulars. Hey, we finally get someone surrendering. Okay, so remove 1 step from the unit. They're eliminated. Again, it's only just removing 1 step. So, yeah, that's the surrender step for those units, all out isolated. I have been attacking them as well. Trying to I figured if I could clear out these isolated units, I could free up the 67th Corps and some of those 1st SS to sort of shift to the west. I've been trying to attack, which is good now that they're isolated. Basically, we draw extra chits. I can ignore attacker losses and all these kind of things. So it's quite nice to begin clearing them out. So again, folks, that is the end of the 20th, about to head into the 21st. Incidentally, in terms of victory points, I'm sitting on 17, which is enough to not strategically lose the game. All right, I'll be back soon. Okay, so here we are at the end of the 21st of December, and again, more mixed luck. look, let me take you up in the north and show you what's going on here. This is where the two SS Corps are basically butting their heads against the wall. First SS up here, trying to attack into Liège. This has been my plan all along, to capture this, but I'm 1 hex away from being adjacent to the Meuse, and I just can't get there. And all these reinforced reserve cards basically are being drawn to place all these now 7th Corps reserves. The US 18th Airborne Corps is also just stacking up, and two units here, 3 here, building up in force. There's a potential here to attack. I just can't quite get the forces around. It's really hard to get the paths to this area. Locking these guys in here, they're now out of supply. We also, because I pocketed these guys earlier, they're dwindling, and further south managed to catch another 101st Airborne unit, elite. They just don't, or haven't been activating very often. This whole southern sector, the 8th Corps, the 12th Corps, we finally got some 12th Corps reserves being placed this turn. But by this stage, I really pushed out way down the south. Again, it's interesting because there are not many victory point objectives here. There's Ardennes here, which I almost reached. You can see these guys are almost there, probably 2 activations away, pending interruption. These guys have just been gradually withdrawing out of risk of being surrounded, and also pocketed some units out here. So these, 53rd Corps arrived and rapidly moved up, and they've helped surround this unit. We surrounded this unit, and the Americans launched this big attack on this hex here and suffered 2 immediate A1 results to break off the attack, I think it was. So that was a nice lucky break for me. Having said that, this unit is still in a bit of trouble, and I don't think they will stay on low supply for very long. My main focus now that I'm butting my head up against the wall near Liège, I've been focusing on gradually, slowly stretching out from here. You can see I even activated a comfort group out here. Again, slow movement, a lot of roadblocks being thrown up in my way. And it's going to be difficult because now I've I think whenever I reach the map edge, it's ties down a unit where they have to block that reinforcement entry hex base, or reserve entry hex. But look, I'm trying to move on. There's a plan here. I've isolated these guys. I can potentially move north now, shift north. I'd like to capture Rochefort if I can. If not, I'll march north, grab the fuel, hopefully, and put these guys in surround. So 1, 2, 3, they can move in there. Again, assuming there's no, and there probably will be, a roadblock. Other than that, there's not much else I can really do. I have been gradually grinding down the American defenders on Elsenborn Ridge. They're now down to a 3 hex pocket, but that's about it. Not much attrition because they are elite. It's basically a 1 in 5 chance that they'll take a step loss. So it ties up a lot of that whole core. As I am kind of clearing that down, I'm freeing up some of those 1st SS Corps units to shift out to the west, to relieve some of the larger units to shift further west. But yeah, look, it's basically a solid brick wall along here to about this point. And this is where I'm hoping to cut and drive, maybe through here, some low hold points here that I can traverse, hopefully. That's my plan. Use these formations to swing around to the north to the Meuse. Having said that, look, this is also the Meuse. I'd get some nice victory points from that. First supplied unit across the Meuse is 10 victory points. So if I can reach that, I'd be equally happy. But I think, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how we go. See what cards I draw, see what activations happen, see what the Americans respond to. Another good thing I drew was the Allied Command Crisis, which has pushed, you may see here, the British reinforcements back one extra turn. So they're also going to be slightly delayed. Okay, so here's the situation at the end of the 22nd of December. We're at the start of the 23rd. I've taken a couple of impulses at the start of this turn, just to quickly finish some things off that I wanted to do. And I have also, critically, changed my approach, my plan. German plans have changed. They are no longer driving for the Muse. That plan is kaput. We are, instead, going for VPs. I've counted up my objective VPs, and I've counted 26. At present, I have 18 eliminated US units, which gives me +9, giving me 35 VPs, which is exactly enough for a tactical win on the final turn, turn 29. So I'm looking for that end game objective. I have been attacking along here, failing, nothing is working, but there's some good VPs to be had in eliminating those allied units. So that's been my priority. You can see way up the top here, we've finally cleared out Elsenborn Ridge. Got rid of all those units, some really nice attacks at last. Now shifting to these units down here, so we're isolated, low supply, out of supply, and some more out of supply down here. If I can eliminate them, that's another at least 4 VP, giving me up to 40, giving me a bit of breathing room in case I lose something like Saint Hubert, or, well, if I get pushed out of La Roche, for example. So, with that shifting mindset to eliminating the isolated units, I need to bring, what I've done is brought the 2nd SS down. The 1st SS is holding basically the northern flank, just blocking. Some of the 2nd SS is blocking, but they're kind of coming behind the lines now to finish off these guys. And I'm just trying to hold onto those objective locations. Now I can do that for another 6.5 turns. This will be a German victory, my first German victory. I'm getting way ahead of myself, I know, but that's my plan. My plan is to eliminate Americans, hold the front line. That's going to mean rushing some defences up into these areas. These guys are holding St. Hubert, a 2 VP location with just 2 strength. They're facing 6 with a few other guys proximate, perhaps. Yeah, they're proximate. I believe they might be proximate. There's some weak forces down here, Neufchâteau. These aren't objectives, but I certainly don't want the Americans gaining any ground. So, shifting to a defensive mindset. Other than that, clearing out there, shifting the 2nd SS back, it's been pretty quiet. A couple of reserves have arrived of, I believe, the 58th Corps. And yeah, very quiet down the front. A bit of maneuvering between these forces. These Americans are out of supply. I'm low on supply. Low on supply here. Some more reinforcements here. So there's some things I could do down there, but there's really only Ardennes with 5 VP to grab. So yeah, folks, that is the situation very early on the 23rd of December, after my full 22nd of December turn. And here we are at the end of the 23rd of December, start of the 24th of December. Not much movement really. I've brought the 2nd SS Panzer Division of the 2nd SS Panzer Corps all the way down around to Saint Hubert, Bastogne, this area around here, to just protect against 3rd US Division counterattacks. They did launch a big counterattack, you can see here on Marsh, and horrific counter-draw eliminated my defenders. This is a 3-step. These guys here were already reduced, but they took something like 5 or 6 step hits, and were retreated and were wiped out. and they advanced into there. Still some isolated, still quite a few isolated Americans, but only the one attrition down the southeast somewhere. So you can see already I'm starting to bolster my defences around here, trying to get some solid stacks in the towns, making it difficult for the Americans to counterattack. I think I'm going to have to attack here. In fact, I did attack there last turn. Removed the improved position, but that was about it. They're elite, two-step. If they can link up, that could be a real problem. So I'd like to force them out and then defend in this area here. I've got a mix of units here. There's like, 4 different divisions from 4 different corps around this this area between La Roche and Saint-Hubert. Trying to wipe these guys out further in the north. I think I caused a step loss on them last turn, but these guys are still just out of supply, not yet isolated. Incidentally, we had another American air power event last turn, and these guys were selected to receive supplies. So it's unfortunate, but not as bad. I prefer these guys than that big group up in the center. That's about it. So, heading into the 24th turn, my strategy now is to try and burn through the turns as quickly as possible. So I'm playing sort of my large allied command. Level is just 1. So as soon as I play like a 1 value card, my turn's over. So I'm trying to play 3 value cards and force combat and burn through a lot of my cards to make my turns go quickly to limit allied counterattacking opportunities. I'm certainly on the back foot here and worried about what the allies can do. So the faster I can burn through my turns, the faster I effectively burn through allied responses, the quicker I can get to through the day, and the faster I get to the end of this scenario and eke out what I hope will be a tactical victory. All right, folks, that's the start of the 24th of December. Okay, so at the end of the 24th of December, the start of the 25th, the situation is largely unchanged along the front. The biggest development on that turn was a series of attacks all around here, 3 divisions working together to clear out the last of those isolated American units. And yeah, that frees up a lot of these forces to shift out to the front. There have been, as you can probably see, a couple of American counterattacks. Recaptured Marsh, drove straight through here, some more attacks along here. I have really reinforced a lot of the positions in this area. You can see some step losses. The 66th Corps is down to 1 reduced. They took the brunt of this 7th Corps counterattack, 2nd Armoured Division counterattack through here of reinforcement, but yeah, down to 1 step. So we've got 9th Panzer Division, recently arrived from reserves, pushing into this area. And lucky for the 2nd SS Corps, who have reinforced a number of these positions, even way down here in the south. We'd also eliminated quite a few Allied defenders way down here near Ettelbruck. They were eliminated from attrition. And yeah, look, the situation is also by capturing, finally, I didn't realize capturing Trois Ponts, it's a 5 VP objective that those Allied units, 5th Corps, had been sitting on for most of the week. By capturing that, it's a +5 VP. So now I'm sitting on 31 VPs for objectives, plus 12, so I'm actually on 43, which will give me enough for a tactical win on turn 28. If I can eliminate 3 more American units, it'll give me an operational win on turn 27. That's certainly feasible. I've got 1, 2, just if I can pick off 1 more unit somewhere. Reduced unit there. I don't know. There's 4th Division way down here in the bottom right. Maybe I could move in to surround them and launch an attack. Big stack here. And look, 7th Corps here in Ardennes. Relatively weakly defended, just 2 combat value. There's options. So maybe I can try to eke out an operational win on the 27th of December. If not, the backup option is a tactical win on the 28th. But I'm pretty confident that the Germans can get a victory. This will be my first German victory. The counterattacks are coming. There's a counterattack here, counterattacks around Saint Hubert, counterattack coming from here, a couple of counterattacks down through here, but even some counterattacks up in the north. But I'm holding on. I think some of these units suffered some step losses. Yeah, these guys here. So there are attacks through here with the 18th Corps, but I am holding on. And now, of course, we're going to get the 67th Corps and the rest of the 1st SS driving out west to reinforce those positions. All right, so we'll see how things go in the coming turns. And here we are at the end of the 25th of December, the morning of the 26th, Boxing Day, and, well, I've eliminated some more American units. These guys are, a big attack, well, not a big attack really, but a lucky attack, managed to cause a heap of hits on these guys. Suffered a few step losses myself, but managed to eliminate them. We'll be able to now, unless the 12th Corps can respond, I will hopefully be able to move in behind and cut them off. I'm mindful there's only 4 turns left. Now, I'm currently sitting on 31 objective VPs plus 13, so 44. And as I said a moment ago, if I can get one more VP, it'll give me that operational victory on turn 27 next turn. So one more unit eliminated, and this is a 1-step unit here. So maybe I can try to... Actually, no, sorry, I need one more VP, which is 2 more units. So I'm going to need both of those. They're probably the easiest to get, but yeah, not a lot of units in that area with strength. Elsewhere, geez, more combat through here. This 7th Corps is just really hitting me, causing some step losses here. Again, lucky, just got the reinforcements here. Actually, they weren't in time for the first combat. Took some steps, but they arrived in time to reinforce the second combat. Bringing some replacements on for 66th Corps here. And trying to beef up. Because this defensive posture means that there aren't many situations along the front where the Allies will attack. They're drawing a lot of attack, major offensive cards and so forth, but they just can't get those 2-to-1 odds needed to go ahead with the attack. They did have here, as I said, this is one of the attacks that they managed to get the 2-to-1, bringing 19 combat factors in to attack me. But that's about it. I think this wasn't an attack, it was just a move, so they weren't attacking me here. I've only got 6 here in a town. I'm weakest here, but they don't really have the units in the area to attack. So, and it's been pretty quiet at the top. Up the top here, across that river, things have been pretty quiet. You can see almost a solid Allied line along here where they're just basically, their actions have just been basically to move adjacent to Germans, reinforce stacks, build improved positions, as you can see along that line. So it's a plan that's working, and as I said, only 2 or 3 more turns. I'd like to be able to get that operational victory. Probably unlikely, but we'll see what happens. All right, so we're about to head into the 26th of December. Okay, so now at the end of the 26th of December, still holding on, managing to inflict another casualty on the Americans here. They're actually resupplied by air, so we're back in full supply. I figured let's go for it. You have all this 8th Corps and 12th Corps linking up with them, and I thought it was time to strike. Got lucky again, did suffer some hits along the way, but managed to eliminate them. Managed to inflict some hits down here, so they're back in supply now. They're reduced. I just need... what do I need? I've got victory point check. 31 plus 10, 11, 12, 13 He's 44. I need one more Allied unit to get victory on this coming turn. Otherwise, I'll have to wait one more turn. The Americans, though, are counter-attacking, and La Roche is under threat. Big 20 strength attack here. I took a hit. They took 2 hits, so they are suffering. I'm trying to think of where else I can get an attack. There's a mix of divisions all over the place. I think this reduced unit out here might be the way to go. It's probably not really feasible, to be honest. I'm going to have to bring 2 core out here to attack these guys. Our lawn's been reinforced. Big 11th Armoured and 17th Division reinforcements here. We've got the 5th Division, the 80th Division. So attacks along here are out of the question, as are along here. Up to the north, we're kind of looking at each other across the, I'm not sure what that river is, but you can see all those green dots are the improved positions for these Allied units. They've moved up and they can't attack me because I have such big defensive positions, but that just means that they entrench. The British also have arrived, 30 Corps have arrived, but I've been lucky with their actions. They just don't want to move. They just want to establish improved positions right where they are, and that's it. That's all they're doing. So, heading into the 27th of December, I'm pretty convinced this will be a German victory. Even if they capture La Roche, it's only 2 VP. Even if they capture Saint Hubert as well, it's at most 4 VP for both of those, and I'm still well above the 40 I need for next turn. So I think, yeah, feeling pretty good about the likelihood of a German victory. But let's play that and see how things go. All right, here's the situation at the end of the 27th. Plan didn't quite work, didn't get any hits on the Allies, launched a lot of attacks along here, and they kept reinforcing a couple of hidden reserves and things like that. Managed to get a retreat here, but that's not that great. A couple of step losses, but no elimination. It's very close. Which brings us to the 28th. And by the end of this day, I just need 40 victory points to secure a tactical win. And I'm on about 44, on the cusp of 45. One more elimination gets me to 45, but yeah, should get that easily. So, about to play that through. You can see a lot of German improved positions, just something I haven't been doing. When I shifted to that defensive mindset, I just didn't think to dig in, and now I have, and it's been happening. And yeah, we've got a rock solid line, I think. There's been a lot for the Allies to break through to take 4 VP from me, but we'll play through it and see what happens. Okay, so here we are at the end of the 28th, and I've just tallied victory points, and the Germans have 47 victory points. They need 40 for a tactical victory, so they win a tactical victory. You can see what happened down here. Bringing all these formations together, I got a lot of assault coordination, one reinforcement card which kind of helped, and burned through a lot of combat cards on a series of not so great combat odds, but drew some really good combat chits. They tended to go my way. Did suffer a couple of step losses along the way, but predominantly leaning in my favour. And well, what did I get here? I think I killed about 6, 1, 2, 3, at least 5. I think I killed 5 Allied units, reduced a few more. Again, there's not much down here. There's Arlon for 5 VP. All I'm really doing here is hunting Allied units and trying to cause step losses. And for the past 6 turns at least, that has been the key to success. Now, I'm not saying that I played this entirely correctly. I'm sure I've probably made some mistakes along the way, particularly in interpreting Allied actions. But look, I think this is the first legitimate German victory. I say legitimate in the sense that no sort of glaring rules errors. Let me recap what rules errors I did make and how it affected the game. I accidentally placed some 5th Corps units in Trois Ponts, and that really hurt me. So the one critical rules mistake I made actually disadvantaged me. I think I accidentally placed some of the third corps reinforcements too far north, which again disadvantaged me. I think there may have been some overstacking early in the game, but I don't think that affected anything. When I say overstacking, having one too many steps in a hex with these type of green troops. I noticed that once or twice, but it was sort of not of great consequence. It's a wild American bridge. What else is critical? Yeah, I don't think there were any other critical errors. I think this is certainly my first legitimate German victory. A tactical one. I was one turn away from that operational victory, which would have been nice. How did I do it? Okay, well, given how horrific the combat system can be against the German player, if you go in with low odds, if I attack here to here, chances are I'll draw a lot of A1 results. It's a big gamble, and we saw that along this line here. So throughout much of the game, I was basically trying to avoid low odds combat, and indeed avoid combat generally. I got immensely lucky early in the game through various factors, through allied combat draws, through allied action draws, which didn't really put much in my way. My roadblock rolls just seemed to be beautiful. Clear roads ahead. I'm moving along these roads and nothing's popping up, and it just didn't feel like a game of enemy action Ardennes. I'm accustomed to roadblocks all the time. When they did pop up, I think I was keeping my 47th Panzer Corps close together, perhaps closer than usual, so that if a roadblock did pop up, I could send a unit a different way, and they were working together. So if a roadblock pops up, this unit activates, gets rid of the roadblock, and moves, and then another one can kind of follow through. So I was kind of stringing those activations together quite nicely. Being flexible, the breakthrough that happened around here, I know it's only one very small breakthrough, but just sort of, I think it was this point here, just west of Elsenborn. There were two, I eliminated an American unit, and the two other units on the flanks of that breakthrough didn't exert a zone of control, which let the 1st SS, who were just in a prime position, rush through towards Verviers, attack Verviers very quickly, capture it, and then move on. The capture of Verviers is important, the breakthrough is important, but what most critical here was isolating all those American units around Trapont and on Elsenborn Ridge. They lost supply, they began to suffer attrition. The surrender rolls were terrible. They definitely did not go in my favor, but the combat benefits for attacking a unit that is isolated are very nice. You basically ignore attacker losses, you take 2 extra chits, so you can have these low odds combats. It doesn't matter if you suffer reverse combat results. So yeah, definitely attacking isolated units. There's kind of a balance then between pushing the line out, and I kept pushing the line, not worrying about those isolated units. It was only once I hit this brick wall that I started to bring some units back to finish them off. By that stage, air power was becoming more prevalent, and a lot of those isolated units were finding they were suddenly in supply, which was a real thorn in my side. But yeah, managed to keep the ring tight around them and finish them off. Once I hit this wall, so I kind of realized I just could not get across. I don't know what this river is called, that runs through Hotton and sort of south of Liège, not the Meuse, but the Allies sort of, I pushed them back behind that river, and I just couldn't push any further. And it runs all the way down here. I tried to kind of attack across here. The Americans were weak briefly, but I just couldn't get the forces in time, and before I knew it, they'd all built up this solid line. And 3rd Corps arrived along here, and 8th Corps, 8th Airborne reinforcements down the bottom here. And that was when I shifted to a defensive posture and realizing I could get to victory by eliminating allied units. So if you look at the graveyard up here, that's the That's a stack of dead Allied units. I counted each of those big stacks is 5 VP. So that should be 32 dead Allied, really American formations. And they are mainly from the 8th Airborne, the 18th Airborne, and the 5th Corps. And that cripples those formations. I mean, the 8th Airborne down here, what are they down to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can't do much with 5 relatively weak formations. 3 17th Division, 2 101st. The 17th has, I think, been, sorry, where's the 11th Armoured? 11th Armoured and 9th Armoured? Gone. Yep. So yeah, and that similar thing happened up in the north with 5th Corps. Early on, I kind of really targeted them, and whenever their kind of command card came out, they just couldn't do anything. Yeah. What else? I was very slow moving through Ettelbruck. I just these 85th Corps units just and the 80th Corps just didn't do anything for a large part of December. They only really got active towards the end. So yeah, I focused on trying to push the lines out, spread the Allied lines. Their front line didn't form until halfway through the campaign. They didn't have a solid front for quite a few days, and I think that's key. If you can push them out, and as these reinforcements are arriving, they're not arriving here; they're kind of arriving around the flanks and are struggling to get into position. Yeah, look, that's about it. I think not worrying too much about German supply, just driving west as rapidly as possible, trying to pocket allies, trying to surround them so they can't keep moving, and then waiting for them to become isolated or out of supply, and then attacking them from there. So there you go, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a German tactical victory in the German solo mode of Enemy Action Ardennes. Thanks all.